By the time the school realized who Leo's father was, it was already too late. The fluorescent lights hummed over Westbridge Academy's conference room like a courtroom. Brielle Simmons kept her palms flat on the mahogany table to stop them shaking, because she already knew what this meeting was. 3 boys had cornered her student behind the portable classrooms, where the cameras didn't reach. Now their parents wanted her to call it behavioral issues. Miss Simmons, the PTA president said, smiling like it was polite. We're not asking for much. Just acknowledge Leo has problems. Brielle looked through the glass door. 8-year-old Leo sat in the hallway, swallowed by a chair too big for him. The bruise on his cheek was turning purple. Behavioral issues, Brielle said. Is that what we're calling self-defense now? The room tightened. The principal searched for the safest side. Your son's cornered him, Brielle said. 3 against 1. Leo didn't throw the first punch, he threw the only punch that kept him alive. That's dramatic, Mr. Whitmore said. Because Leo pulled his punches, Brielle replied. Something your boys never learned to do. Silence. Miss Simmons, the principal tried, perhaps we should discuss this privately. No. Brielle stood. If you want to expel him, put it in writing. And I'll attach photographs of his injuries, my full report, and a formal complaint about this meeting. She picked up her worn messenger bag. You can have my resignation, she said, or you can have the truth. But you can't have both. Behind her, the room erupted. Brielle didn't notice the man in the back corner, standing near the window like a shadow that belonged there. A charcoal suit. Calm eyes. No expression. Jyn-Ho Lee watched her walk out, and made a decision. Brielle didn't know it yet, but she'd just earned the protection of a man who never forgave, and never forgot. And by morning, someone else would be paying for it. If you want stories where power moves quietly, and consequences come fast, subscribe. Because this is only the first domino. 2 days earlier, the playground had been full of the usual chaos. Kids screaming on the swings. Teachers huddled by the fence with their coffee cups. Nobody paid attention to the space behind the portable classrooms where the security cameras didn't reach. That's where Brielle found them. 3 boys had Leo backed against the wall. The biggest one, Blake Whitmore, was shoving Leo's shoulder. Hard. Each push slammed the smaller boy against the concrete. My dad says your family doesn't belong here, Blake said. Says you're trash. Leo didn't answer. He just stared at the ground, his hands balled into fists at his sides. Hey! Brielle shouted, running toward them. Back up. Now. The boys scattered like roaches when the lights came on. All except Blake, who gave Leo one final shove before walking away slowly, like he had all the time in the world. Leo slid down the wall, his breath coming in short gasps. There was dirt on his uniform. A scrape on his cheek. And something in his eyes that made Brielle's chest hurt, the kind of emptiness that came from being hurt too many times to cry about it anymore. Come on, sweetheart, she said softly, helping him up. Let's get you to the nurse. By the time they reached the main office, Dr. Hartford was already there. He took one look at Leo's face and sighed like this was an inconvenience. What happened? Blake Whitmore and his friends cornered him, Brielle said. Behind the portables. This needs to be documented. Hartford's jaw tightened. The Whitmores are significant donors, Miss Simmons. Perhaps we should hear both sides before we make accusations. Brielle stared at him. Both sides? Leo has a bruise. What's the other side supposed to explain? But she already knew the answer. Money talked louder than truth. The conference room smelled like expensive perfume and lies. Brielle sat across from 3 couples who looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. Designer clothes. Perfect hair. Smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Dr. Hartford sat at the head of the table, his hands folded like he was praying for this to be over quickly. Thank you for coming, Miss Simmons, he said. We just want to clear up some confusion about yesterday's incident. There's no confusion, Brielle said. I saw what happened. I wrote a report. Mrs. Chen-Rothstein laughed, but it wasn't a real laugh. Miss Simmons, children play roughly sometimes. Boys will be boys. Surely you understand that? I understand that 3 boys cornered one, Brielle said. I understand that Leo has a bruise on his face. I understand that this isn't the first time. Mr. Whitmore leaned forward. His cologne was so strong it made Brielle's eyes water. My son says Leo started it. That he's been aggressive all semester. That's not true. Are you calling my son a liar? I'm saying what I saw. The room went quiet. Dr. Hartford cleared his throat. Miss Simmons, these families contribute significantly to our school. They fund our art program. Our new computers. The scholarship fund. So we ignore bullying because their parents have money? Brielle's voice rose despite herself. Is that how this works? Hartford's face turned red. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Nobody answered. Mrs. Brennan, the third mother, spoke up. Her voice was soft but sharp, like a knife wrapped in silk. Perhaps Leo would be happier at a different school. One more suited to his needs. Brielle stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. His needs? He needs to be safe. That's every child's need. She grabbed her bag and walked out. Behind her, she heard Hartford sigh. I'll handle this. But Brielle knew what that meant. She was the problem now. Not the bullies. Her. The email arrived at 6:47 a.m., before Brielle had even finished her coffee. Please report to the principal's office before the first period. This is urgent. Her stomach dropped. She knew what urgent meant. It meant someone important had complained. Dr. Hartford was waiting with a folder when she arrived. He didn't ask her to sit down. Miss Simmons, I need you to revise your incident report from yesterday. Brielle's hands tightened on her messenger bag. Revise it how? Remove the parts about Blake Whitmore initiating physical contact. Focus on the fact that both students were involved in an altercation. Both students? Brielle's voice came out flat. Leo was defending himself. That's your interpretation. Hartford slid a piece of paper across his desk. This is the revised version. I need you to sign it. Brielle picked up the paper. It made the whole thing sound like a playground disagreement. Two boys playing too rough. No mention of 3 against 1. No mention of threats. No mention of Leo's bruise. This is a lie, she said. It's a compromise. It's a cover-up. Hartford's face hardened. Miss Simmons, I'm trying to help you here. The Whitmores are talking about legal action. They're saying you made false accusations against their son. If you don't sign this, I can't protect you. Brielle set the paper down. I'm not signing it. Then I have no choice. Hartford pulled out another document. Effective immediately, you're on administrative leave pending investigation. 2 weeks. Unpaid. The words hit like a punch. You're suspending me for telling the truth? I'm suspending you for insubordination. His voice was cold now. You refused a direct order from your supervisor. Clean out your classroom by the end of day. Brielle walked out before he could see her hands shaking. In the hallway, she passed Leo's classroom. Through the window, she saw his empty desk. They'd already pulled him out of school. The bullies had won. Brielle was packing her desk when she heard the knock. She looked up to find a man standing in her doorway. Tall. Perfectly dressed in a dark suit that probably cost more than her car. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp, like he saw everything and forgot nothing. Miss Simmons? His accent was slight, Korean mixed with years of living somewhere else. His voice was quiet, but it filled the room anyway. Yes? Brielle put down the box of markers she'd been holding. Can I help you? I am Jyn-Ho Lee. Leo's father. Her heart stuttered. She'd never met him before. Leo was always picked up by a driver, a silent man in a black suit who never came inside. Mr. Lee. Brielle straightened, suddenly aware of how messy her classroom looked. I'm so sorry about what happened to Leo. I tried to. I know what you tried to do. He stepped into the room, his movements careful and controlled. I was there. At the meeting. Brielle blinked. You were? In the back. I wanted to see who these people were. His eyes moved to the boxes on her desk. They are making you leave. It wasn't a question. Administrative leave, Brielle said, trying to keep her voice steady. For 2 weeks. For protecting my son. For refusing to lie about what happened. Jyn-Ho was quiet for a long moment. He walked to Leo's desk, third row, by the window, and ran his hand along the back of the chair. My son does not speak much, he said finally. But he speaks about you. He says you are kind. He says you see him. Brielle's throat tightened. Leo is a good kid. He deserves better than this. Yes. Jyn-Ho turned to face her. And so do you. Something in his voice made her skin prickle. Not threatening. Just certain. Like he'd already made a decision she didn't know about yet. Thank you for defending him, he said. I will not forget it. Then he was gone. Brielle spent her first week of suspension applying for jobs and trying not to check the news. She failed at the second part. The headline appeared on Wednesday morning, local tech CEO under federal investigation for tax fraud. She almost scrolled past it. Then she saw the name. Richard Whitmore. Blake's father. Her coffee went cold as she read. The IRS had launched a surprise audit. Federal agents had shown up at his office with boxes and warrant papers. Millions of dollars in suspicious overseas accounts. Employees being questioned. Stock prices dropping like stones. No way, Brielle whispered. The next day, it was Mrs. Chen Rothstein. Her luxury car dealership was being investigated for odometer fraud. Customers were filing lawsuits. The local news showed her running from reporters, her Hermes scarf pulled over her face. Friday brought the Brennans. Mr. Brennan's law firm was facing ethics violations. Someone had leaked emails showing they'd bribed a judge. His license to practice law was suspended pending investigation. Brielle sat at her kitchen table, her laptop open, her hands shaking. 3 families. 3 investigations. All in 1 week. All the families who demanded Leo be expelled. It couldn't be a coincidence. She thought about Jyn-Ho Lee standing in her classroom. The way he'd touched Leo's desk. The way he'd said, I will not forget it. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello? Miss Simmons. The voice was smooth, professional. I'm calling from Morrison and Associates. We understand you're facing potential legal action from your former employer. We'd like to offer our services. Pro bono. I didn't hire a lawyer, Brielle said slowly. Consider it arranged. Someone believes you deserve proper representation. Who? But the lawyer had already hung up. Brielle looked at her laptop screen. At the 3 ruined families staring back at her. She thought about the man in the expensive suit. The silent observer. What did you do? She whispered to the empty room. The letter came in a plain white envelope with no return address. Brielle almost threw it away, thinking it was junk mail. But something made her open it. Inside was a single piece of paper and a bank statement. The paper had 3 typed lines. For your legal defense. You should not suffer for doing what is right. The funds are yours to use as you see fit. No signature. No name. The bank statement showed an account in her name. An account she'd never opened. Balance, $50,000. Brielle dropped into her kitchen chair, the paper shaking in her hands. $50,000. More money than she'd ever seen in one place. More money than she made in a year. This was wrong. This had to be illegal. You couldn't just put money in someone's account without their permission. Could you? She grabbed her phone and called the bank. Waited through the hold music, her heart pounding. Yes, ma'am, the customer service representative said. The account was opened 2 days ago. The funds were deposited via wire transfer. Everything is completely legal. But I didn't open this account. It says here you're the sole account holder. The person who made the deposit requested anonymity, but they had all the proper documentation. You're free to use the funds however you wish. Brielle hung up and stared at the statement. $50,000. The same week 3 wealthy families had their lives destroyed. The same week a law firm offered to represent her for free. She thought about Jyn-Ho Lee. The way he'd stood in her classroom like he owned the world. The quiet certainty in his voice. Her doorbell rang. A delivery man stood there with a huge box. Brielle Simmons? Yes? Sign here, please. Inside the box was a new laptop. Top of the line. The kind she'd never be able to afford. The card attached said only, for when you return to teaching. Brielle closed the door and leaned against it. Someone was protecting her. And she was starting to understand the cost. Brielle's suspension ended on a Monday morning that felt like walking into a different school. Dr. Hartford barely looked at her when she signed back in. "Welcome back, Miss Simmons. Your classroom is ready." No apology. No explanation. Just cold efficiency. But it was what happened next that made her skin crawl. She was walking to her classroom when she saw Leo on the playground. He was sitting alone on a bench, reading a book, his legs swinging back and forth. 3 teachers stood nearby. Not talking. Not checking their phones. Just watching him. Like guards. Brielle frowned and kept walking. At lunch, she noticed it again. Leo was in the cafeteria, eating his sandwich. 2 staff members hovered at the edges of the room, their eyes constantly drifting back to his table. When recess came, Brielle decided to investigate. She walked outside and found Leo playing on the swings. Alone, like always. But this time, there were 4 adults scattered around the playground. The PE teacher. 2 classroom aides. The vice principal. All of them are watching Leo. A second grader ran past, laughing. He got too close to Leo's swing. The PE teacher moved so fast it made Brielle jump. He stepped between them, his hand up. "Careful. Give him space." The second grader looked confused but nodded and ran the other way. Brielle's stomach turned cold. She walked over to Ms. Patterson, one of the aides. "What's going on?" Ms. Patterson looked nervous. "New protocol. Dr. Hartford's orders. We're supposed to make sure Leo feels safe." "Safe? We got a memo this morning. Leo is a priority student. We're to ensure no incidents occur. Under any circumstances." She lowered her voice. "Between you and me? I've never seen Hartford this scared. It's like someone threatened him." Brielle looked back at Leo, swinging peacefully, unaware of the invisible wall around him. She thought about his father. The silent observer. "What kind of man are you?" she whispered. The annual Westbridge Academy fundraiser was held in the ballroom of the city's fanciest hotel. Brielle had never attended before. Tickets cost $300, but this year, one appeared in her mailbox with a note, "You should be there." No signature. But she knew. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and people who wore their wealth like armor. Brielle felt out of place in her borrowed dress, clutching a glass of water she was too nervous to drink. Dr. Hartford stood on stage, thanking donors. The same parents who demanded Leo be expelled sat at the front tables, smiling like nothing had happened. The investigations had quietly disappeared. Charges dropped. Audits closed. Someone had made it all go away. "And now," Hartford said, his voice tight, "we have a very special announcement. Mr. Jyn-Ho Lee has generously agreed to join our benefactors." The room went quiet. Jyn-Ho walked onto the stage. He moved like a shadow, silent and precise. His suit was perfect. His face was calm. But when he looked at the audience, Brielle saw something that made her breath catch. Power. Pure and undeniable. "I am honored to support Westbridge Academy," Jyn-Ho said, his voice carrying easily through the microphone. "Education is important. Protecting our children is important. I am donating $2 million to the school." Gasps rippled through the crowd. $2 million. More than the school's entire annual budget. This money, Jyn-Ho continued, will fund new security systems, anti-bullying programs, and scholarships for students who need support. His eyes swept the room, landing briefly on each family who'd gone after Leo. They all looked down. "I believe every child deserves to feel safe at school," he said. "Don't you?" The silence was suffocating. Hartford stammered into the microphone. "Thank you, Mr. Lee. We're incredibly grateful." But Jyn-Ho was already walking off stage. He stopped beside Brielle's table. "Miss Simmons. Would you join me outside? I would like to speak with you." It wasn't a question. Brielle left the gala early, her head spinning from everything she'd seen. $2 million. Jyn-Ho had bought the school. Bought her safety. Bought his son's future. And she still didn't know what it cost. The parking garage was dim and echoing. Her footsteps sounded too loud on the concrete. She was fishing for her keys when she heard another set of footsteps behind her. Miss Simmons. She turned. Mr. Whitmore stood 10 feet away, his hands in his pockets. His face was red, his expensive suit rumpled like he'd been drinking. Mr. Whitmore. The gala's still going. You think you're clever, don't you? His voice was rough. Angry. Getting that man involved. Ruining our families. Brielle's heart hammered. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play dumb. He stepped closer. The investigations. The audits. All of it stopped the minute Lee wrote that check. You think we don't know what that means? Mr. Whitmore, you need to step back. My son was right about you people. You come in here with your causes and your attitudes, thinking you can change how things work. He was close now. Too close. This is our school. Our city. And you need to remember your place. Brielle's hand tightened on her keys, her thumb finding the panic button on her key fob. Then headlights flooded the garage. A black SUV appeared from nowhere, pulling up so fast its tires squealed. It stopped between Brielle and Whitmore, the driver's door flying open. A man stepped out. Tall. Broad shoulders. The same silent driver who picked up Leo every day. He didn't say a word. Just looked at Whitmore. Whitmore went pale. I was just talking. The driver took one step forward. Whitmore ran. Actually ran, his fancy shoes slapping against concrete as he disappeared into the stairwell. The driver turned to Brielle and bowed slightly. Mr. Lee asks that you follow us home. To ensure your safety. Brielle's voice came out shaky. How did you know I was here? But the driver just opened the SUV's back door and waited. The restaurant was the kind of place Brielle had only seen in movies. White tablecloths. Crystal glasses. Waiters who moved like dancers. Jyn-Ho sat across from her, perfectly still, his hands folded on the table. Thank you for coming, he said. Did I have a choice? The words came out sharper than she meant. His lips curved slightly. Not quite a smile. Always. I do not force people, Miss Simmons. I only offer opportunities. Like the lawyer? The money? The SUV that follows me everywhere now? Protection, Jyn-Ho corrected. After what happened in the parking garage, I thought it wise. A waiter appeared with wine. Jyn-Ho waved it away and ordered water for both of them. He didn't ask what Brielle wanted. He just knew she didn't drink. How did he know that? You have questions, Jyn-Ho said when the waiter left. I can see them in your eyes. What did you do to those families? I showed them the truth about themselves. People with secrets should not threaten children. The investigations just disappeared. Because I allowed them to. His voice was calm, like he was discussing the weather. They learned their lesson. That was enough. Brielle's hands shook. She put them in her lap. You can't just control people like that. I can. I do. He leaned forward slightly. But not you. You, I protect. There is a difference. Why? Because you stood up for my son when no one else would. Because you risked everything for a child who was not yours. His eyes were dark and serious. In my world, loyalty is rare. When I find it, I treasure it. I'm not loyal to you. I was doing my job. Exactly. Jyn-Ho sat back. You are loyal to something greater than money or fear. That is why you are valuable. The food arrived. Brielle stared at her plate, her appetite gone. What do you want from me? She whispered. Only what you have already given. Keep teaching my son. Keep protecting him. He paused. And let me protect you in return. Brielle started noticing things she'd missed before. The men who waited outside the school every afternoon didn't look like regular drivers. They stood too straight. Their eyes moved too carefully, scanning everything like they were expecting danger. When she went to the grocery store after school, one of them followed. Not close enough to be obvious, but close enough that she always knew he was there. She tested it. Took a different route home. He followed. stopped for coffee. He waited outside. These weren't bodyguards. They were something else. Then there was the day she saw Jyn-Ho at school pickup. He stood by his car, talking on his phone in Korean. His voice was low and sharp. Not angry, but commanding. Two men in dark suits flanked him, their hands clasped in front of him. One of them had a scar across his knuckles. The kind you got from punching things. Or people. Leo came running out, his backpack bouncing. The moment he saw his father, Jyn-Ho's face changed. Softened. He hung up the phone and knelt down to hug his son. But the men didn't move. Didn't smile. They just watched the parking lot like they were expecting an attack. Brielle felt cold despite the warm afternoon. That night, she did something she knew she shouldn't. She Googled Jyn-Ho Lee. The results were strange. A few business articles. Some charity events. Photos of him at gallery openings and fundraisers. But nothing personal. No social media. No interviews. No background information. For someone so wealthy, he was a ghost. She tried different searches. Jyn-Ho Lee plus Korea. Jyn-Ho Lee plus business. One result caught her eye. A news article from 5 years ago, written in Korean. She ran it through a translator. The article mentioned a powerful family and organized business interests. It talked about territory disputes and rival groups. The translation was rough, but one phrase came through clearly. Suspected connections to organized crime. Brielle closed her laptop, her hands shaking. She thought about the investigations that disappeared. The families who suddenly backed down. The men who looked like soldiers. Oh God, she whispered. What have I gotten into? The folder appeared on Tuesday morning. Brielle arrived early to set up for the day and found it sitting in the center of her desk. Plain manila. No label. No note. She knew she shouldn't open it. She opened it anyway. Inside were photographs. Documents. Bank statements. Emails. Her stomach dropped as she flipped through the pages. Dr. Hartford had been taking money from the school's scholarship fund. Small amounts, spread over years. $50,000 total, hidden in fake invoices and billing errors. Mrs. Chen Rothstein had been having an affair with the head of the school board. The photos were time-stamped and dated. Hotel receipts attached. Mr. Whitmore's tax fraud hadn't been random. The folder showed years of illegal offshore accounts, fake charities, and money laundering. Everything the investigators would need. There was more. Mrs. Brennan's husband had bribed 3 judges. Mr. Patterson, the PE teacher who'd suddenly started watching Leo, had a DUI he'd covered up. Even some of the other parents had secrets, affairs, fraud, lies. Every single person who'd tried to get her fired. Who'd tried to hurt Leo. All their secrets, laid out like cards on a table. Brielle's hand shook so badly she dropped the folder. Papers scattered across her desk. This was illegal. This had to be illegal. You couldn't just investigate people like this. Couldn't dig into their lives without warrants or permission. But someone had. Someone with resources. With reach. With people who could find anything. Her classroom door opened. She spun around, her heart hammering. Jyn-Ho stood in the doorway, calm as ever. His eyes went to the scattered papers, then back to her face. You weren't supposed to see that yet, he said quietly. What is this? Her voice came out as a whisper. Insurance. He stepped inside and closed the door. In case they try to hurt you again. This is people's private information. Their secrets. Yes. You can't just. I can. His voice was still calm. Reasonable. Like they were discussing lesson plans. And I did. Because they threatened you. They threatened my son. Brielle backed against her desk. Who are you? Jyn-Ho looked at her for a long moment. Someone who protects what matters. I need the truth, Brielle said, her voice steadier than she felt. All of it. Jyn-Ho closed the classroom door completely. Locked it. The click echoed in the quiet room. What truth do you want, Miss Simmons? Who you really are. What you really do. She pointed at the folder. Normal people don't have access to this kind of information. Normal businessmen don't have armed guards following teachers around. I never claimed to be normal. Stop playing games with me. Her voice rose. I looked you up. I found articles. Things about organized crime and territory disputes and you are frightened. He said it like a fact, not an accusation. Yes. I'm terrified. Brielle's hands gripped the edge of her desk. Because I stood up for a little boy, and now I'm caught up in something I don't understand. Something dangerous. Jyn-Ho was quiet for a moment. Then he walked to the window, looking out at the playground where Leo was playing during morning recess. My son's mother died when he was 3, he said finally. Cancer. Very fast. Very painful. His voice was soft but empty, like he'd told this story too many times. Before she died, she made me promise to give Leo a normal life. School. Friends. Childhood. He turned back to face her. I have tried. But my world follows me everywhere. People see my son as a weakness. A way to hurt me. What world? Brielle demanded. Say it out loud. A world where power is everything. Where loyalty is bought and sold. Where violence is a language everyone speaks. He met her eyes. You would call it crime. I call it survival. The words hung in the air like smoke. You're in the mafia, Brielle whispered. Jyn-Ho didn't deny it. I am a businessman who operates outside the law. And I am a father who will do anything to protect his son. Including threatening me? I have never threatened you. I have only protected you. That folder is a threat to everyone in it. Yes. His voice was calm. Factual. And they earned it. Brielle felt dizzy. I can't be part of this. You already are. The alarm started during the 3rd period. Not the fire alarm. Something else. A harsh, grinding sound that made the windows rattle. Brielle looked up from her lesson. Through the classroom door's window, she saw Dr. Hartford running down the hallway, his face white. Lockdown, he shouted. Lockdown. Now. Her training kicked in. Everyone away from the windows. Against the back wall. Quiet. 23 students scrambled to obey. But Brielle's eyes found Leo first. He sat frozen at his desk, his pencil still in his hand. Leo, come on, sweetheart. He didn't move. His eyes were wide, focused on something outside the window. Brielle followed his gaze. 3 black vans had pulled up to the front of the school. Men were getting out. Not police. Not parents. Men in dark clothes with faces she couldn't see clearly from this distance. Her blood turned to ice. She grabbed Leo's hand and pulled him to the back wall with the others. Lights off. Everyone stay quiet. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Get Leo to the art room. 3rd door on the left. Now. Another text. A photo. It was the inside of her classroom. Taken from outside. From where those men were standing. They could see her. Brielle's hand shook as she unlocked her classroom door. The hallway was empty. Silent. She could hear shouting from the front office. Glass breaking. Miss Simmons? One of her students whispered. What's happening? Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone except the police. She looked at Leo. You're coming with me. I'm scared, he whispered. I know, baby. Me too. But your dad sent people to help us. We just have to get to them. She pulled Leo into the hallway. Behind them, she heard the classroom door lock click. Ahead, footsteps echoed. Heavy boots. Coming closer. Brielle ran, pulling Leo with her, praying they'd make it. The art room door was unlocked, just like the text said. Brielle shoved Leo inside and locked it behind them. The room was dark except for sunlight filtering through paint-splattered windows. Under the supply cabinet, she whispered. Now. Leo crawled into the space beneath the wide cabinet where art supplies were stored. Brielle pushed boxes of clay and paint cans in front of him, creating a wall. Don't make a sound, she said. No matter what you hear. Promise me. Leo's eyes were huge in the darkness. Where's my dad? He's coming. I promise he's coming. Footsteps in the hallway. Voices speaking a language Brielle didn't understand. Not English. Not Spanish. Korean. She grabbed a pair of scissors from the art teacher's desk. Her only weapon. Her hand tightened around the handle until her knuckles ached. The footsteps passed the art room. Keep going. Brielle's phone buzzed again. 2 minutes. Keep him hidden. She texted back with shaking fingers. Who are you? Protection detail. Mr. Lee's orders. Stay down. Outside, the voices got louder. Arguing. Then a sound that made Brielle's heart stop. Gunfire. Not the crack of pistols from movies. Real gunfire. Loud and sharp and terrifying. Students screamed from other classrooms. More glass breaking. Someone shouting orders. Then silence. Horrible, heavy silence. Brielle crouched next to the supply cabinet, the scissors raised, her whole body shaking. The art room door handle turned. Locked. Someone kicked it. Once. Twice. The wood around the lock splintered. Brielle stood, putting herself between the door and Leo's hiding spot. The door crashed open. A man stepped inside. Tall. Armed. His face, covered with a black mask. He looked right at her. Brielle raised the scissors. Get away from us. The man laughed. Then the window exploded inward, and everything went dark. Someone had thrown a smoke grenade. Through the chaos, Brielle heard a voice. Calm. Controlled. Familiar. Get down, Miss Simmons. Jyn-Ho had arrived. Brielle hit the floor as bodies moved through the smoke. The masked man who'd kicked in the door went down hard. She heard the impact, heard him grunt, heard something metal clatter across the floor. Then silence. The smoke began to clear. Jyn-Ho stood in the doorway, perfectly calm. He wasn't holding a weapon. He didn't need to. 6 men in dark suits surrounded him, all armed, all watching every corner of the room like hunting dogs. Leo, Jyn-Ho said quietly. Dad. Leo scrambled out from under the cabinet and ran. Jyn-Ho caught him, lifting him up, his hand cradling the back of his son's head. For a moment, he looked like any other father. Scared. Relieved. Humans. Then he looked at Brielle, and the mask came back. Are you hurt? And no. Brielle couldn't stop shaking. What's happening? Who were those men? Business rivals who made a mistake. His voice was ice. They thought targeting my son would give them leverage. One of his men spoke rapidly in Korean. Jyn-Ho's jaw tightened. 3 hostiles down. 1 escaped through the east entrance. He switched to English, looking at the man. Find him. Now. The men disappeared like shadows. Brielle heard sirens in the distance. Finally, the police were coming. You need to leave, Jyn-Ho said. When the police arrive, tell them you hid in here. You saw nothing. You know nothing. I can't lie to the police. You can. You will. He set Leo down gently. Because if you tell them the truth, they will ask questions. Questions that put you in danger. Questions that hurt my son. Mr. Lee. Please. The word came out rough. Almost desperate. I am asking you to trust me. Just this once. Brielle looked at Leo, clinging to his father's leg, his face buried in the expensive fabric. She thought about the folder of secrets. The protection that had saved her life. The man who'd arrived before the police because he had people watching his son every second. Outside, the sirens got louder. Jyn-Ho was already moving toward the window where his men had entered. Thank you, he said. For protecting him. Then he was gone. The police questioned Brielle for 3 hours. She told them what Jyn-Ho had asked her to say. She'd hidden with Leo. Heard gunfire. Saw nothing. The men wore masks. She couldn't identify anyone. It wasn't completely a lie. By the time they released her, the sun was setting. The school parking lot was full of police cars and news vans. Parents were crying, holding their children. Dr. Hartford was being interviewed, his face gray with shock. Brielle walked to her car on shaking legs. Jyn-Ho was leaning against it. You, she said. Her voice came out flat. Exhausted. You can't be here. The police are looking for masked men, not a concerned parent. He straightened. I gave my statement hours ago. I am simply waiting to thank my son's teacher. 3 people were shot today. 3 people who came to murder a child. They are alive. In a hospital. Under guard. His voice was calm. Matter of fact. It could have been much worse. Brielle's keys jangled in her shaking hands. I lied to the police for you. I know. And I am grateful. This has to stop. All of it. The protection. The gifts. The threats. She looked up at him. I can't live like this. Always looking over my shoulder. Always wondering who's watching. Who's coming. I understand. Jyn-Ho reached into his jacket. Brielle tensed. He pulled out an envelope. You have a choice, Miss Simmons. Inside is a check. Enough money to start over anywhere in the country. A new name, if you want it. New life. My people will make sure you disappear completely. And Leo? We'll have a new teacher. A new guard. Someone I pay to care for. The words hit like a slap. Someone he paid. Or, Jyn-Ho continued, you stay. You continue teaching my son. And I continue protecting you. Completely. Forever. What does that mean? It means you become part of my world. Not my business. Never my business. But my family. Under my protection. Untouchable. Brielle stared at the envelope. Freedom or safety? Running or staying? Her old life or something new and terrifying? I need time, she whispered. You have until tomorrow. Brielle didn't take the money. She told herself it was because Leo needed her. That running away would make her a coward. That every child deserved someone who chose to stay. But late at night, she wondered if it was something else. If maybe she'd been alone for so long that even dangerous protection felt better than none at all. The school changed overnight. Dr. Hartford resigned. Health reasons, the announcement said. But Brielle saw him leaving with a box of his things, his hands shaking, his eyes hollow. The Whitmores transferred Blake to private school. The Chen Rothsteins moved to another state. The Brennans simply vanished, their house sold within a week. A new principal arrived. Dr. Sarah Chen. Young. Smart. Her first act was implementing the anti-bullying program that Jyn-Ho's donation had funded. Her second act was asking Brielle to lead it. You're the one who stood up when it mattered, Dr. Chen said. That takes courage. We need more of that here. Brielle accepted, even though she knew the real reason she'd been chosen. Because Jyn-Ho wanted it. Because now, when she spoke, people listened. Not because of her. Because of him. The protection detail became permanent. 2 men, always watching. They dressed like parents waiting for pickup. Like maintenance workers fixing things. Like shadows that never quite disappeared. Brielle learned their names. Dae-young and Min-ho. They were polite. Professional. They never talked about what they did when they weren't watching her. She learned not to ask. One evening, Jyn-Ho invited her to dinner at his home. Not a restaurant. His actual home. It was massive. Modern. Cold and beautiful like a museum. Leo ran to greet her, his homework in hand. Miss Simmons. Can you help me with my reading? Of course, sweetheart. She sat with him at the kitchen table while Jyn-Ho cooked. He moved efficiently, precisely, like everything he did. It felt almost normal. Almost. Until she noticed the security cameras. The reinforced doors. The men patrolling outside. Welcome to the family, Jyn-Ho said softly, setting a plate in front of her. Brielle looked at Leo's bright smile. At the home that was a fortress. At the man who'd changed her entire life. Yeah, she whispered. I guess I am. 6 months passed, and Brielle learned what power without a title looked like. Teachers asked her opinion on curriculum changes. Dr. Chen consulted her before making major decisions. Parents who used to ignore her now smiled nervously when she walked past. Nobody said why. They just knew. At faculty meetings, when Brielle spoke, the room went quiet. Not because she was loud or demanding, but because people had learned that disagreeing with her had consequences. A teacher who'd mocked her anti-bullying program found himself transferred to a different school. A parent who'd complained about her favoritism toward Leo suddenly withdrew her complaint, her face pale and frightened. Brielle never asked for these things. Never requested them. They just happened. Like magic. Dark magic. She hated it. And she used it anyway. When a new student arrived, a shy girl from Somalia who spoke broken English, Brielle made sure she was placed in the best classes. Given extra support. Protected from whispers and cruelty. Nobody questioned it. When budget cuts threatened the art program, Brielle mentioned it to Jyn-Ho over dinner. The next week, an anonymous donation arrived. The art program was saved. When a family lost their home to a fire, Brielle asked if he could help. Within days, they had temporary housing. Clothes. School supplies for their kids. She'd become a bridge between two worlds. The light and the shadow. The teacher and the criminal. It should have felt wrong. It did feel wrong. But when Leo smiled at her during reading time, when the shy Somali girl finally laughed, when the family thanked her with tears in their eyes, it felt necessary. One afternoon, Ms. Patterson pulled her aside. How do you do it? Do what? Get things done. You don't have money. Don't have connections. She lowered her voice. But somehow, you're the most powerful person in this building. Brielle thought about Jyn-Ho watching his son from the shadows. About men who followed her everywhere. About folders full of secrets. I just care about the kids, she said simply. It wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the whole truth. 3 years passed like water flowing around stone. Smooth on the surface. Turbulent underneath. Leo's 5th grade graduation was held in the school auditorium on a bright June afternoon. Parents filled the seats, cameras ready, faces proud. Brielle stood backstage, straightening Leo's tie. He'd grown taller. More confident. He smiled more now. Had friends. Are you nervous? She asked. A little. He looked up at her. You'll be there, right? When I give my speech? Front row. Promise. And Dad? He wouldn't miss it for anything. Leo hugged her quickly, then ran to join the other students. Brielle walked into the auditorium and found her seat. Jyn-Ho was already there, sitting in the back row where he always sat. Watching. Guarding. But today, he wasn't alone. Dae-young and Min-ho sat nearby. Other men she'd come to recognize. A small army dressed as proud parents. The ceremony began. Students walked across the stage. Parents cheered. Then it was Leo's turn to speak. Student body president. Highest honors. He walked to the podium, and Brielle's heart swelled. 3 years ago, I didn't think I belonged here, Leo said, his voice clear and strong. I was scared. Alone. But my teacher, Miss Simmons, showed me that being different wasn't wrong. That standing up for yourself wasn't bad. That sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is ask for help. He looked right at her. She saved me. And I'll never forget it. The auditorium erupted in applause. After the ceremony, parents swarmed the lobby. Brielle found Jyn-Ho standing near the exit, Leo beside him. Thank you, Jyn-Ho said quietly. For everything. He did the work. I just believed in him. No. His eyes were serious. Grateful. You gave him something I never could. A normal life. Safety. Hope. Leo grabbed both their hands. Can we get ice cream? All of us? Brielle looked at Jyn-Ho. The criminal. The father. The man who changed her life forever. He looked back at her. The teacher. The protector. The woman who'd stood alone when no one else would. 2 different worlds, standing in a school lobby, connected by one small hand. Yeah, Brielle said softly. Let's get ice cream. As they walked out together, Dae-young and Min-ho followed at a distance. Always watching. Always protecting. It wasn't the life Brielle had imagined. It wasn't safe or simple or right. But it was hers. And for Leo's sake, for all the Leos who needed someone to believe in them, she'd chosen it. She'd choose it again. 3 months later. Brielle opened her mailbox and found a letter. It was from Jyn-Ho. He got into the best middle school in the state. Full scholarship. You changed his life, Miss Simmons. But you also changed mine. Thank you for showing me that real power isn't about control. It's about protection. P.S. The folder is still in my safe. Just in case anyone forgets. Some debts are never fully paid. And some protectors never stop watching.